So in the vast majority of use cases within an Angular application, you build up your view model and then your HTML templates become little more than a manifestation of that view model. But in some edge cases, mapping the view model to the DOM is not always the most elegant or the most performant approach. And in those cases, what we can do is use an Expando DOM property to inject a unique value into the DOM and then allow the DOM to act in a way, not as the source of truth per se, but as a mapping between the DOM and something in the view model. So to see what I mean, here we have a couple of paragraphs, and as I click on these paragraphs, I'm going to be injecting this data attribute, this data expando with some sort of a timestamp on it. And you can see that we get the first value is 1, and as I go down, we get 2, 3, 4, and so on. And if I click on these, I'm going to toggle those values out of the DOM. 4, 3, 2, 1. And if we jump over into the console and let's clear this and we run through the same thing, we can see the same information just represented programmatically. You can see I'm injecting the Expando property. We're at value 5 now, 6, 7, 8. And here I'm outputting the element itself as well as the data set associated with that element. You can see that the Expando property shows up there as well. From an app component standpoint, very little is happening. Here are the toggle handlers on those clicks, and the toggle is simply making use of this Expando service. It's using the get method to see if the element has an Expando value. If so, it removes it, which returns the Expando value. Otherwise, it adds it, which returns the new unique incremented Expando value. And if we jump over into what the Expando service is, it's just a simple Angular service with a few numbers, or a few methods, sorry. Internally, it keeps an ID, which is this incrementing value, so that every time you inject an Expando property, it is unique. And I'm just keeping the attribute here. And you can see this service is doing next to nothing. When we add an Expando property to an element, we're just incrementing that value, and then we're setting that data attribute. Similarly, when we get the Expando property from the DOM, we're simply reading that attribute out of the element. Now, this demo doesn't really showcase why something like this can be helpful, so I hope to do that in a subsequent post. But it is definitely nice in the edge cases where the DOM has to act a little bit like a source of truth, and we don't want to necessarily store an HTML element in memory that can cause some issues with garbage collection and so on and so forth. So when we use this simple incrementing value as sort of the liaison between the DOM state and the view model state, I think it creates sort of an elegant and performant approach to, again, the edge case where the view model is not necessarily sufficient for representing the state of the application. But we'll look at that in a subsequent Angular post, and hopefully that'll become more clear.